Hello and welcome to another episode of The Kid Stays in the Podcast. I'm your host, Trey Cooper, and joining me today is...
Solodric Cooper.
Solodric?
Yeah.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, I looked up some names and not and I would try to find like the big common like root of all of them. I was looking up vampire names because of the movie we're watching today.
Oh, God.
So a lot of the endings I noticed was like it ended with a R-I-C-K. So that's what I went with.
Okay. I don't even have the energy to make fun of it because it's so lame.
That's cool. I thought it was interesting. I actually put work and effort and...
Yeah, a lot of work and effort.
I looked it up.
You sound kind of congested. Do you have a cold?
No, I do not have a cold. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, joining me today, as always, is Solomon Cooper, and today we're going back in time.
Ooh.
We're going back to an era when people weren't watching lots and lots of superhero movies every single year. And we're going to go to the very tail end of John Carpenter's career. Or at least his directing career. And we're going to be discussing, I believe, the 1998 movie.
Vampires.
Yes, John Carpenter's Vampires. Now, a lot of people haven't seen this movie. It did terribly at the box office. Didn't do particularly well with the critics. It came out, if I'm not mistaken, after Blade. And of the two movies, Blade is definitely more modern, a little slicker, has some neat CGIs in it.
Yep.
This movie's definitely more of a throwback. But I've always had a soft spot in my heart for this movie. And
why is that?
I picked it up on a whim, didn't think it was going to be very good when I was a teenager, and was astonished at how much fun it was. It's gory. It has some, let's say, less than dressed ladies in it.
Okay.
And at that time, all of these things went into the plus category for me. I also really liked the way that these vampire hunters use all these different tools, and they have all these rules and these like techniques. So the world felt very established.
Yes.
And the reason I chose to revisit this recently is because, and I think I might have told you this, Solomon, but so Vampires is based on a novel by John Stakely. And a friend of mine had recently lent me a copy of John Stakely's most famous book, which still isn't that famous of a book, called Armor, which I just adored. I loved the book. I read it in like 2-3 sessions. And after that, I really was like, what else did this guy write? And then I found out he only wrote one other book. It did get adapted to a movie, and then he died.
Oh, that's brutal.
You can't find even an interview with him.
Really?
Yeah, like he just kind of disappeared.
That's crazy. Like, did he literally die or?
Yeah, he literally died of cancer.
Oh, that sucks.
But if you look at it, he died, and yes, before he had to publish anything else, but he didn't like instantly die. It wasn't like he published these 2 novels, was getting famous and died. I think he died in like 2010 or something. So he already had kind of disappeared from the scene.
Okay.
And even though you thought it was stupid, and I'm not going to disagree with you necessarily, but the reason that Vampires has such a generic title is because in the book title is Vampires, but the S is a $sign.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes a little bit more sense. You know what I mean? So even though that might be stupid, at least it's not so generic that you couldn't even understand why it's called that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I read Armor, saw that he had written Vampires, and then it reminded me I was like, oh, I always liked that movie. And then we needed to watch a movie to discuss the podcast.
It's also John Carpenter.
It's John Carpenter, yes.
Just, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're a fan of his. And we had watched The Mummy with Brendan Fraser, and I was thinking maybe we could discuss that. But once we were watching The Mummy, I realized there's just not a lot there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, not really worth it. So anyway, that's how we ended up watching this movie. That's what you guys wanted, right? As a 5-minute explanation of how we chose this movie.
Yeah, I think that's fun. That gives them a glimpse into our lives.
So, this is one of those, like, normally when we talk about old movies, I don't want us to do it in the exact same structure because most is that same. That's what I just now said. The exact same structure.
I just love your consonants.
The exact same structure as we do with newer movies, where we go through the plot and whatever, because usually people have seen these movies. You know what I mean? We don't need to tell people what Jaws is all about.
Well,
but this
what are we
movie,
gonna do about this movie?
a lot of people I bet haven't seen the movie.
Yep.
And I would like this podcast to make them want to go see the movie.
Okay.
So why don't you give us one of those plot synopsis that you're so good at? While you're doing that, I'm gonna take some drinks of water, and I'm gonna kick back and enjoy your description of this movie.
The plot of this movie isn't that much.
Mm-hmm.
So this should only be like a sentence or two.
Mm-hmm. Like all plot synopses are.
Yeah, but this one will be way easier. I think. So here we go. Can't have dead air.
Come on, bro.
I'm trying to think of what I say. There is a group of vampire hunters, and they are hunting the master vampire.
Okay. Kind of.
But then
there's a bunch of master vampires. You said the master vampire.
the master of all vampires.
Okay.
The creator. I don't know, man. That's it. That's all it is. There's a group of bounty hunters who try to kill vampires. Master vampire.
Stop saying that part. That ends up becoming a part of the plot, but I would definitely say the plot synopsis is it's about a group of mercenaries or bounty hunters who hunt down vampires.
Yes.
For money.
Yes. That's why the dollar sign's on the...
Right, but they kind of admit that from the movie. Mm-hmm. Do you notice that?
Yeah, they only mentioned it like once.
Did they even mention it once? I don't remember the mention.
They did.
They mentioned like how much the money they're getting paid?
Yeah, they said, remember that cardinal is like, if you do this, you're not going to get funded anymore.
Yeah, that's the other thing. They hunt down vampire nests.
For the Vatican.
Yeah.
Yep. It's very cool.
So yeah, that's pretty much the premise of the movie. Now, the movie deviates deeply from the book, which I want to be clear, I haven't read yet. I will remedy that, but apparently only the beginning of the book and the characters' names are the same. So the opening scene when they clear out the vampire nest, and then when they go to celebrate, because remember they put all those skulls on the thing that like basically them counting dollars. Mm-hmm. So then they go have that debaucherous celebration, and then they get attacked. That's the end.
It's the end of the connections.
Really, I mean, other than the fact that they keep hunting vampires.
That's crazy.
But yeah, so James Woods plays the main character, the protagonist of this movie,
Jack Crow.
Yep, who's also the name of the protagonist in Armor,
which was probably very weird.
Nah, it wasn't that weird. It was actually kind of cool, because James Woods' character in Vampires is very similar to how I imagined Jack Crow would be in Armor. Just he's a vampire hunter, not a sci-fi pirate.
Okay.
But yeah, he's kind of an asshole. Very unique choice for this role. He's not young at this time. You know what I mean? He's obviously like in his 40s or early 50s. Mm-hmm. But he has this like Haggerty kind of look to him that I just think really works. And even though I don't think the movie was actively trying to make him cool, and he is, but he's kind of cool in this way of somebody who used to be cool, but now still dresses that way. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like he's wearing like these leather jackets, and they're like kind of too try-hardy. You know what I mean? It's like you're trying too hard to be a badass.
Yeah, but he still is one.
But he is one. Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
So it looks like that he is trying too hard, but he still is what he was.
Yeah, it's hard to explain. Like I said, it's like he's still wearing the same clothes that he did whenever he was like 20 years old, but he's like 40 now. So there's something about it's hard to explain.
Yeah, but he's okay. All right. I think I vaguely understand what you're trying to say.
Yeah, and then Daniel Baldwin, who for most people he would just be the great value Baldwin brother.
Sure.
He plays his best friend / sidekick or whatever you want to say.
Yep. Sounds about right to me.
And he's also like shockingly good in this movie.
Very good. Very, very good. I loved his performance.
Yeah,
in this movie.
Really fun.
In this film.
I know what your favorite part of his performance was when he's trying to pretend like he's sleepy.
That was the weirdest thing I think I've ever seen in film in my whole life. This guy literally was like, he fell asleep on a chair or something, and he got up and his lip was like, what is it? Like, what is that called? When his lip is just hanging out like this.
He was doing like a cartoon frown.
He was, but I don't know why he was frowning.
Yeah, I mean, this is something.
His lip was like out and like down. Like, when you're making the face.
Yeah, it's like pooched out.
Yeah, when you're like, when they're making the face with like your tongue up and your lip down, that make it looks like you have big lips. Just take away the tongue part, and that's what he was doing.
I would just say that he was doing the most horrendously exaggerated frown that you could imagine.
Yeah, it was pretty horrendous. It was just so funny though, and he just held the face for like 2 minutes.
It's one of those times when I think I said this when we were watching it, like this is not even his fault. This is the director's fault. The director, John Carpenter, should have been like, "Hey, bro, let's do that again, and this time don't look like one of the 7 dwarves." Because he did. He held that face for a really long time, and there's no way he doesn't know what his face looks like. He can't see himself. So I'm sure in his mind, he's like, "Oh, I'm making a sleepy face." And the director should have been like, "Cut. Nope. Don't do that. Stop doing that."
Yeah, that was unfortunate.
But other than that, I thought he was fantastic. Like, I thought he was genuinely fantastic. And he was cool. He was cool and not in the weirdish kind of way that James Wood was cool. You know what I mean?
He seemed a bit weird though. I just felt a bit, I don't know. I felt uncomfortable. He just felt a bit odd.
He felt, what?
Him as a character.
I just need to understand. I'm not saying I disagree.
He just felt bizarre. Like his character. He was like, he seemed abusive.
Yeah.
And
well, that's what I'm saying. Like, he was, okay, he always had like this dangerous edge to him. You know what I mean? He seemed a little bit too slick and slimy, but also he seemed like he could do anything. You didn't know what he was gonna do. Is he gonna murder a woman? Is he gonna take advantage of her while she's asleep? Or is he gonna be a nice guy? Oh, who knows?
What a cool character.
But he ended up being a nice guy. I'm just saying, he had this dangerous edge to him. Yeah, and he was funny. You know what I mean? Yeah. He was kind of used as like comic relief. And yeah, the movie has some very, I mean, honestly, I would say it's even pre-90s kind of misogyny to it. He gets to sexually harass this woman and beat her up and end up with her at the end. You know what I mean? And they're in love with each other. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a whole layer of misogyny going on.
Definitely.
And that's where you can really tell that even though this movie was made in the late 90s, I mean, very close to the 2000, that it's still very based on a book that was written probably in the 80s.
Sure.
In fact, Armor has a scene in it where the main character, Jack Crow, punches a woman in the face because, I don't know, she just annoys him or something. Like, it's not even like she's a threat or anything. He like goes to his quarters and he punches her in the face because she says something to him that he doesn't like, and the booker, like, her nose is bleeding or whatever, and then they proceed to like make sweet love and be dating the rest of the book.
That is so weird.
Yeah, it's just, yeah. So anyway, there is definitely some misogyny there. The movie is also kind of leering when it comes to women. There's a scene where I can't remember the actress's name, but she's from Halloween. I'm completely blanking on it.
I have no idea.
We also probably we did give you the plot synopsis, but like kind of oh crap, we're out of time. We need to take a break.
We've been talking for too long.
Yep, we've been talking for too long, having too much fun. All right, guys, we're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
And now a word from our sponsors.
Hi, this is Sarah.
And I'm Carter.
And this is Some of Our Thoughts.
We're two Southern sommeliers, and we want to share everything we love and know about wine. We started hanging out during quarantine and cooking and drinking and listening to music, and we just thought this would be a great way to bring everything we know to you guys.
We will make wine knowledge and food pairings easy and approachable. So put on your favorite vinyl, grab your favorite glass of wine, tune into our show, and let's have some fun.
Wine and vinyl. So check us out on roguemedianetwork.com or wherever you get your favorite podcast. We'll be talking about a lot.
911, what's your emergency?
Do you hear that? It's coming from the house.
It's coming from inside the house? Do you mean? Could it be?
The Poltergeist. New from Rogue Media. Two haunted hotties talking about haunted places. Every episode we dive deep into the darkest places and give you a bit of history.
We're getting spooky in all the right places.
You've gobbled your last ghoul.
Follow along for the craziest and spookiest stories with Debbie's Dark Tourism. The Stanley Hotel,
Winchester House,
The Alamo,
Hotel Monte Vista,
and more spooky places. Find us at _Poltergals. POLTERGALS.
Look over your shoulder. It's us,
The Poltergals. Wherever you consume the podcast, you can find us there.
What are we doing here, Rusty? What are we gonna do?
Yep, we're doing the King of the Hill Rewatch Podcast.
King of the Hill Rewatch Podcast. Yeah, so we're gonna go through one episode at a time. Come along for the ride with us.
Come check it out.
And give me a good like Dale Gribble quote to go out on. Wingo.
Yeah, Wingo.
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 All right. Well, join us for the King of the Hill Rewatch Podcast.
Deep in the heart of Texas, that drinks his brew and he spits his chew. Deep in the heart of Texas, the TV blares but no one cares. Deep in the heart of Texas, here we go.
Welcome back to the Kids Season, the podcast, and our discussion of vampires.
I think you really need to say John Carpenter's vampires every time.
No.
If you don't say John Carpenter's vampires, it sounds like we're just discussing vampires in general.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Yes. Mm-mm. What a great argument.
I looked up vampires, and it came up.
Also, I was completely wrong. I said that.
Whoa! Let me.
No, I want to say how I got mistaken.
Nope. So my dad's a dummy, and he thought that Sheryl Lee was in Halloween. And here's the thing: my dad was like, "Oh, she's in Halloween," and I was like, "That doesn't sound right," because I've seen Halloween, and I love Halloween, and everyone knows I love Halloween. And do you know who's not in it? Sheryl Lee. Sheryl Lee.
It wouldn't even make any.
Halloween.
It wouldn't even make any sense for her to be in Halloween. Halloween came out in like the 70s, so she would be like already way older than this.
Yeah.
But she was the main character, or the main. I don't know. I guess you could say the main character. She's not the actual main character of Twin Peaks. She played Laura Palmer in that. So I don't know how I got those two things conflated.
Maybe you just were thinking about John Carpenter.
Yep. And Twin Peaks is David Lynch, and he's also really famous. So.
Oh yeah.
So anyway,
it's tough. It's tough to be wrong.
What I was gonna say is, so
all the time.
This movie, it starts with them raiding a house, or raiding a vampire nest. Then they go into have this huge debaucherous party. You know what I mean? Where they're celebrating all the money they're gonna make.
Yes, sir.
And they had some ladies of the night there.
Ladies of the night?
Yes. I think that's the politically correct word.
That's like 3 words.
What is
4 words.
There is a politically correct word for it now. What is it?
Sex workers?
Is it sex? Is that it?
Yes.
Sex workers?
Yes.
Yes. Well, that's what they hired a bunch of.
Ooh.
And they're getting down and dirty with lots of hooch and druggists and ladies. And this big wild old party when it is rudely
interrupted
by
this weird, tall, pale man with long fingernails.
Yes, and he is, we find out later in the movie, like the first vampire ever.
Yep.
And it turns out that the first vampire ever was created on accident by the Catholic Church when they essentially did a reverse exorcism, they said.
Mm-hmm.
So they killed the body, but made the demon or whatever inside
alive, stronger.
Yeah, I don't know, whatever. They call it a reverse exorcism. I don't know if it actually makes sense, but
I mean, it makes sense to me.
But yeah, so the whole premise is that for some reason this vampire has been sent to hunt down Jack Crow and his team, but at the same time he is he's trying to find some artifact that will make it to where he can walk in daylight. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think it's actually very similar to, if I'm not mistaken, the premise of Blade, or at least one of the Blade movies. Every vampire movie has some version of a story where the vampire, his big thing he's trying to get is to be able to walk around the sunny shine.
Yeah, the sunny shine.
I'm not gonna lie, that would be the least of my concerns as a vampire. I wouldn't care about that at all.
Yeah, that's boring.
I don't like to be around the sunshine now.
Yeah, me neither.
If I could only be awake at nighttime, I would be perfectly happy.
Yeah, and you also have an option to die whenever you would need to.
By walking into the sun?
Yeah, because think about it. If you live forever, obviously everyone knows that that's like the greatest curse.
Yeah.
So you can just walk into the sun and you're fine. You don't want to stab yourself with a stake. That would suck.
But I don't want to do anything to myself. I want to be alive forever.
Forever?
I'd be fine with it.
You're crazy.
I'm not.
You're insane. The thought of being alive for even 30 more years is scary. But forever?
I'd do it, man.
No, you wouldn't.
I'm not one of those people. I'm not one of those people who would be like, oh, but everybody you'd love would grow up and not. Yeah, get new people to love. I'll just keep loving new people.
No, you won't, because you'll only be meeting people in the night. You can't meet people every day.
I'll meet them at night.
I guess you could find a vampire lover.
Yeah, exactly.
But the problem is that either way, you still have to suffer the problems of life. I don't really care about everyone dying around me.
Yeah, but you just get used to it.
I just care about...
I'm already used to the problems of life.
But I just care about having to live for so long.
That's why like Tuck Everlasting is all about like how hard it is to be immortal.
Yeah. But also, they also talk about the people who leave them out of fear, the people who died. It's just...
You just get used to it. You get used to it in like 20 years, let alone 300 years.
Yeah, but just like my brain would not be able to handle it.
Oh, God, I think it'd be amazing.
You think it'd be amazing to live forever in the night?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Forever.
Forever, yes.
You're absolutely insane. No one agrees with you.
I'm sure they don't. I'm not saying that everybody should do it. But I'm just saying that's why I'm going to become a vampire in the end.
I mean, I would love to become a vampire because then I have an excuse to not go outside and I get to do whatever I want because I can live forever and I don't need other people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I can just eat. I don't need money because I'll just eat people.
I don't need money because I can just eat people. You could do that right now.
Well, yeah, but I don't need. That's illegal. But I'm a vampire.
It's illegal when you're a vampire.
Yeah, but I'm a vampire. But I'm super strong and I can do whatever I want. Or I could just
what you really have is you have immortality on your side, so you could just become rich.
How? Stocks? Eventually?
Yeah, and knowledge.
That's fair.
Anyway, let's talk about being a vampire. Let's talk about the movie Vampires. So one of the things I was saying at the beginning is that I really like that this movie has the world already feels very established. I think part of that is that John Carpenter really shoots this movie like it's a Western.
Yeah. And the music is also pretty Western.
Yeah, and it's John Carpenter also did the score for this movie. It's a really underrated score, I think. It has these kind of weird...
Hum it to me.
I can't hum it to you.
Exactly. That's what you always say. You're like, I couldn't hum a single song of his. So hum me one. Not John Carpenter. But whenever I'm talking about like, I actually like that score. And you're like, can you hum one? And then I'm like,
when do I do this?
And then I'm like, no.
I've never heard of myself doing this.
You do it all the time. It's really annoying.
I have made fun of Marvel scores for being pretty generic in the sense that you can't hum any of them, but that's because those are motifs for superheroes, and you should be able to sing a motif for a superhero.
You can hum the Avengers theme.
Hum it.
You can, is what I said.
I can't either.
Why not?
Why can't you?
I did it the other day.
Okay, so you can't do it.
But you've seen me do it.
Anyway, this is a very underrated John Carpenter score, I think.
Yeah.
It has this, it's still kind of an electronic synth score that he's known for, but this one has like a lot of like almost romantic overtones, but in the romantic way that you would think of like the Wild West.
Sure.
There were some scenes where I did not understand what the score was doing. It was playing like almost like music, bedroom music, while people are just like throwing Molotov cocktails at vampires.
Yeah, that never happened.
But it was unique. It was a
choice.
Yeah, it was a choice, exactly. But the other thing is that the vampire hunters very clearly had like all these rules and all these things. So I wanted to ask you about that. What did you think? You know, like you've grown up watching a bazillion super special effects heavy movies with all kinds of cool gadgets and gizmos. What did you think about the weapons and the techniques that they used to like take these vampires down?
I think a lot of them were really cool, really interesting, really new, really fun. The main thing that they do is they have a crossbow, and the bolt is attached to a string on a car.
A string on a car? You mean a winch?
Yeah.
A string on a car.
Yeah.
It's a big metal cable.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. And basically, and they only hunt during the day.
Mm-hmm. It's like rule number 3.
Yeah. Or I thought it was rule number 5.
I don't know.
Or 10.
I don't remember.
It was either 5 or 10. It was one of the two. And basically, it would shoot it, and then the winch would pull it back.
I feel like you kind of got scattered there. So you shoot the vampire with a crossbow.
Yes.
Bolt. Okay.
Yes. And then the bolt is attached to a winch, and it pulls them outside into the daylight, and then they go like, rah, both.
And they burst into flames.
Yeah. It's really cool.
Yeah.
I actually really like the flame effect in this.
Well, and they also had like these weird like spear prods that had flashlights on them.
They did have spears, and I didn't understand why.
I didn't understand why either until the very end when he's like using it to push the vampire outside. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I thought the spears were like made of silver, but I forgot that that's for werewolves. So
yeah, it honestly I think the movie is very classic vampire-y. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They do a little bit of a spin on it where they say like crosses don't affect them, garlic doesn't matter to them. But you can only kill them with wooden stakes. But I kept being like, I mean, I get that maybe it won't be a stake anymore if it's not just like a classic looking wooden stake. But I kept being like, why don't they have the wooden stakes on the end of those spears?
Yeah, I agree with that. It's a good point.
But I think that the point of the spears was just to kind of manhandle them.
Why can't they just make a really big stake then that they hold and push things.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, would that be called a steak now?
It's just long.
I agree with you.
A long steak.
I agree. It was kind of silly, but at least they were trying. You know what I mean? Like they were trying to make cool stuff, and it looks a little bit.
It looks fun.
Silly, but it's fun.
Yeah, even though I do still think it's silly that they have flashlights on their spears.
Yeah, it did. It did look very silly. What did you think about James Woods though in this movie? He's a very far alt-right guy now, so he doesn't do a lot of acting anymore except for like Christian movies. I'm just saying, like, so you probably haven't seen him in anything in a long time, and he used to be a great character actor. But what did you think about his character in this movie and some of his like one-liners and stuff?
I thought that he was good. That's the end of my your turn. Just kidding. Sorry. Yeah, he was good. I liked the stuff that he was doing, and I mean, we already talked about him, about how he looks off cool but really cool.
Yeah,
he's weird. And I think for the most part, I think Jack Crow is he's funny. He's a funny guy, and
I can only think of
he's very over the top to me.
Well, yeah. What were like some of the one-liners that he said? Because I can only think of one of them, and I can't even repeat it out loud because it would be so offensive in 2023. But like he had all these weird one-liners. He was always asking people if they were getting boners.
Yeah, he was saying wood. You getting a bit of wood, mahogany.
Yeah, he was, and that was very odd. That was like the recurring joke of the movie,
which is really funny.
Is him always asking people if they're getting boners. But he would just say it. He had all these like little one-liners that he would say. I can't think of any of them.
I don't know.
Embarrassing.
Not a single one-liner. I just remember the wood mahogany thing. And that's funny.
Well, he would always say he was going to kill somebody in some way, or he's going to stick his boot in their ass, or he was going to do something. But I can't think of any of them. And what did you think about the oh my God, what's the Sheryl Lee?
Sheryl Lee.
Yeah. How did you find her?
How did you find her? I really liked her. I think she was fun character who was in the movie.
She doesn't even have a personality. She's just naked.
I think she had a really great personality.
She has like no character because she's just like basically half asleep the whole movie long.
Yeah, but
she is at the beginning. She had a personality.
Yeah, but yeah, she's mostly just like used as the map.
Yeah, because she has a psychic link to this master vampire, who I really, even though it's kind of goofy, I really appreciate that they made him dressed like a very classic vampire.
Of course, he's the first one.
Like he looked kind of ridiculous,
but it makes sense. He was made in like the 1300s.
Yeah, there is a really, really leering shot of her when she's tied to the bed. That is kind of gross in the sense of it's just there for you to be oogling her body.
But tell us about it. Tell us about this shot.
Because so she's tied on the bed. She's tied to this bed.
She's tied on the bed.
She's tied on the bed, and she is butt ass naked.
Bro, no bad words.
Sorry, ass is in the Bible.
Okay.
But she's like, yeah, she's naked, and the camera literally just slowly pans up her nude body. For no reason is she nude, because then the guy comes in and Daniel Baldwin. He plays. His name is something like very mafia sounding. It's like Tony Montoya.
Montoya is correct, but his first name is
we only have
Anthony Montoya.
Yeah, so Tony. But then he like comes over. He acts really weird. You're like, oh, what is he about to do? Something creepy? And then he covers her up. But he's been gone to get hamburgers. So like, why didn't you cover her up before? Like the shot just exists for pure reasons. Anyway, hey, we're out of time. Honestly, I could have talked about this movie for another 30 minutes.
We're having a good time. Good time.
So anyway, I still really, really enjoyed this movie. I think it's worth checking out. Has some fun. All the effects are practical. Some of them are dated. It's still an older movie. I'm not saying it's its best. But what did you think? Just quick final thoughts.
I thought it was pretty fun. I mean, it wasn't like the best movie ever created, but I would recommend watching it if you haven't seen it already. If you like John Carpenter, then...
Do you think it'd be a movie that one day you might show your friends?
No.
Ever?
No.
Like when you're like in college and you see it on like their dad's bookshelf?
If there's a movie where it's like, if there's a specific time where I need to show them a random movie that I've watched that was about vampires, then yes, I'd probably pull it out. If I saw it somewhere, then yes, I'd probably watch it again. I'd be like, oh, I've seen this movie before. Come take a peek at it.
I thought it was fun. I think
But
it's also really.
I don't think I'll show this to anyone.
Why?
Just so I don't need to.
It's well paced. It's fun. It's a fun old
It's a
movie.
fun movie. I'm not saying the movie's not fun, but I don't feel the need to show it to other people. I have one movie that I'll show to other people, and that's Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. That's my favorite movie.
Okay. Well, that's our show. Sorry we had to end on that really annoying note where the only movie that Solomon will show to people is Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Well, if I'm in a position,
I ended the podcast. The podcast is over.
Then I'm only going to
podcast
bring
over.
one movie. I don't need to
see
bring
you later.
more movies.
Talk to you later.
Why don't I bring that movie? Of
That's
all
our show.
Follow us on Instagram at The Kid in the Pick and on RogueMediaNetwork.com.
Until next time.
This has been a Rogue Media podcast.